Welcome back. Well, yes, indeed, that is what we're focusing on this morning. And we've got Professor Oyewole Tomori, who is the immediate past president, Nigerian Academy of Science. Good morning, Prof, and thank you for joining us today. Well, yeah, we've seen several reports and assessments about what we've done, where we are at the moment, what we plan doing, such that we could at least keep managing all of this so it doesn't get further out of hand. But from your vantage position, could you tell us, what is your assessment of how we've fared or how we've handled this in the last 1 year?
Thank you very much, and we're happy new month to all of us. My first reaction about how we fared is to look back on how we dealt with Ebola and what we're doing now. I think we have a basis of comparison. I think we didn't learn from the errors of the past. In spite of what people say, yes, we didn't have dead people on the road, we didn't have all that. It is not because of what we did, it is because of what the virus did not do. The epidemic of the virus differed from one part of the country to the world to another. So we shouldn't run into the wrong conclusion that it was because of our performance that the virus did not do what it did. The virus did not behave like it did in other parts of the world. But having said that, the numbers we give it to us are the numbers we have by default. Testing and all those things. So the recent study about the epidemiology shows us that we have like 3, 4, 5 times what we had. Right now it says that 75% of our people don't have immunity against the virus, which means they are still susceptible. So just like you said, we are not out of the woods yet.
SGF the other day on News at 10, while he was of the opinion that yes, he can thump his chest saying we've done well, and that they could leave a handbook of how they've handled some of this. And so how come there seems to be, we're seeing things from a different perspective?
Yeah, you see, the truth is that, we have comments and then we make deductions that don't follow what is happening. The situation, as I keep saying, is not that. See the incoherence in our government. When all this thing started, there were states that were denying that there was no epidemic. We are not speaking with one voice as a nation. The PTF had absolutely no control of what was going on in the other states. We still have the state today, we say there's no COVID in that place. When we have the state where government says that the vaccine is a poison, so what are we talking about? We didn't have a common, and we are said by saying with Ebola, there was a common focus. We all acted the same way. And we're able to put this under control, which is quite different from what we're having today. One state government does one thing, federal does another thing. And we know about testing. Some states were even testing from 6 months, 3 months. You know that there is done from any of the states. So let's not deceive ourselves. It is not what, like I keep saying, what we did, but it's what the virus did not do. I think we need to stress that to our people. The situation is far worse than we think it is. And I keep saying the set of that was done both by CDC and NIM and other people showed us that of all the since for 1 year, only about 25% of the people have had immunity to the virus. Which means there are close to 80% out there still, when you extrapolate, still susceptible to the infection. We're not following what we call the non-pharmaceutical intervention. We're not wearing a mask. So the virus is still there. We're still spreading it amongst ourselves. So I think we need to alert our people and stop thumping our chest. It's not that you can't be patting yourself on the back for what the virus did not do, rather than what you did.
So from your perspective, what are those things, either structurally or institutionally, that we did in the way to handle Ebola that we could have either leveraged on or improved upon this time around?
The control of Ebola was not at the PTF level. There was an EOC center that was controlling Ebola, Emergency Operations Center. They were following all cases. They were tracing contacts. They were doing all those ones. So how well have we traced contacts in this place? If your result comes 10 days after you got this, how are you going to trace the contact? Those are the issues we were talking about. I mean, the control of it was at an emergency operations center. We didn't have one like that. I mean, CDC is doing the CDC is doing everything, but doesn't have an emergency operations center. We didn't have that kind of control that we had. And we involved people. The local government, the Lagos State, and all those people were doing all the tracing. We involved the community. I think the PTF and others have regretted it and said that they want to controlling the epidemic. It's not the PTF that control the epidemic. It's the people, it's you and I. Because we are the ones that make those viruses and do the transmission. The virus is immobile. You are responsible. And I think we have stressed from day one that the most important player in this is you, is me. And that's the point. And that is the way we miss the road.
So, but then well, it's 1 year down the line now, and just in this year alone, reports and data from the NCDC has it that we've recorded almost half the numbers, the total numbers in this year alone. At what would you ascribe that to? Now that you say it's us, it's the people, definitely the government has its own role to play and the people have their roles to play. What would you lay this on? Because clearly government has been doing its most to inform people, to educate people about this, and yet this has happened.
Let me say one thing. There's something about educating people at the right time. If you come to educate me after I've committed the offense, the offense is already committed. We missed you from day one by not informing, making people realize that this is a problem. But I'll give you 2 examples. You remember during the summer holidays and some of the times when numbers were dropping in this country, and people don't assume the epidemic was gone. It took the PTF almost 10, 20 days to say that no, it was because we were not testing. Already the damage was done. So even if you have information to people, give it to them at the right time. It is what I call MAD, medicine after death. When you don't alert your people with real-time information and the real-time data. I keep talking about it, but we're making progress now. Yes, no doubt about that. When we started, we had only how many labs? 4 or 5 labs. Now we have over 100. So of course, you're going to get more testing done. But even with that doesn't solve the problem because we don't have enough labs to test our people. That's the point I'm trying to say. And secondly, I think you raised the point that what else could the government have done? As I said, right now, improve the awareness. You find in other countries where the leadership of this is at the presidential level. Not PTF, Paris Task Force that we set up. Not that kind of thing. The president of the different countries took charge of what was going on. We don't have that in our country. And governments do what they like. They say, well, as I remember when it was time when one of the governors said this was something, and then the governors forum disassociated themselves from that. So, of course, what impression you give it to your government? Even the government is not coherent on it. So, who cares? I believe my government, I believe your government. What do we do? Those are the points we're talking about. Governance is important. We started from a background with the fact that the health system, just like you mentioned, was not in good shape. And I think I heard some of the report now that even the COVID has worsened the situation with tuberculosis. We're going to see we're only talking about COVID now. We're not talking about those other effects of the people who have died from other diseases that COVID has taken the focus away. So back to what we're saying, it is back to the people. We are still wearing our mask. And like you said, when you get the vaccine, even with that, and you see how many we're talking about vaccine. It's coming in January, it's coming in February, it's coming in March, it's coming tomorrow. Nobody knows. And remember, and the countries around us, like Ghana, like South Africa, they've gone ahead. There are about 4 or 5 different groups of countries concerned with this epidemic. They are the proactive ones. Those are the ones who even took the gamble from day one and purchased vaccine, even when they knew it was going to work. They are smiling and laughing now. Then there are the post-active ones who, after they couldn't get their donation, and now started scrambling for this, like South Africa and like Ghana and others, who are going out there and making their own purchase, not waiting for UNICEF, not waiting for Gavi or something of that nature. And there are the inactive countries, which unfortunately I think my country belongs to. We're still talking about vaccine. We're still talking about donation. We're still talking about this. They said they put 400 billion to raise this. What do they do with it? And now I'm reading again that they want to do a supplementary budget to do it. What did you do with the first 400 billion you talk about? So that's the level of what happens in an inactive country that we are.
You're saying, because when you talk about the fact that the PTF COVID-19 leading the charge wasn't strong enough, are you saying that it would have been stronger if it was the president? Are you saying that our political intervention was weak because the president was not the one leading the charge?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Go look at other countries where they are taking charge of that problem. Boris Johnson in London, forgetting what you like about Trump, and this he had his own group, Canadian government. the governments, I mentioned Ramaphosa, when it was time to do so, he went out to go and pick up the thing. They made points. They talked about it. They had their committees like PTF there. But then the president came out regularly to let the people know, carrying the people along. The president is our rallying point. It's not PTF, is not our rallying point. We voted for the president, not for the PTF. Occasionally, my president needs to come out and say something about what is going on. That's what we call it, and that's why governors from different can say what they like, because the president wasn't coming out to say what they needed to say. They ran on and let's talk with one voice, and we know that our president has said it. And that's the point I'm saying. You don't delegate your authority to another group.
I mean, there are different layers to this response, Nigeria's response, and I think you've quite well highlighted the political angle. But if we could go virology now for a moment, because I think earlier on you said it's not about what we did, but about what the virus did not do. We're in the second wave now. I mean, the first wave was mild compared to the second wave, and I want to say that there might be a third wave and a fourth wave. So, I mean, we don't look forward to that, but I mean, these possibilities are on the table. So if you could just help us explore that area of what the virus did not do in Nigerian context, because one wonders, what more can happen, really?
Okay, let me give you a good example. Over there, the part of the greater majority of people who get infection, are the young people. And they are asymptomatic, but they are spreading the disease. If you look at Europe and other points, in fact, that what we call their demography is different from our own. Japan, all those people, they have a larger proportion of elderly people who have comorbidities and all that kind of problem. So when they get infected, they're the ones that die. That's the death we are seeing. Look at our own figure also. Most of we have the younger population, so they get the infection, but they don't die from it. When you look at the figures of deaths in Nigeria, the deaths are in the older people, 50 and above. So we have a larger portion of younger people who get infected, who are not dying, who don't show anything, they are asymptomatic, but so therefore we don't know that everything is happening. But they're busy spreading the thing around the whole place. But then go and look at the case fatality rate. It is the elder people that are dying who get infected. And so because we have fewer of them, we're not seeing the deaths that we should see. That's what I mean by saying the virus did not behave, the behavior was different. Secondly, because these young people are busy transmitting the virus, and that's where what you call the mutations, and the more the virus moves from one person to another, the more it mutates. It only mutate when it is stagnant. It has to be in people to mutate and change. And the same variants now are coming up. You remember the one in Britain, B117, it's because it has a higher level of transmissibility. So my suspicion would be that some of the variants we're getting in Nigeria, but I say suspicion, there's no clear evidence for it now, that the second wave that we have, which was much higher than the first wave, could have been because of that. We're busy transmitting the virus was mutating and changing, and probably increasing its transmissibility and spreading the thing along with our people. If the third wave comes, I fear, if it comes, it will be worse than the second wave. Because again, back to the thing, 75-80% of our people are not yet protected. So there's enough people for the virus to go around with and multiply. And so these are simple things. Not people using it and saying it was what my government did. My government did absolutely.
Oh, goodness. I mean, I can imagine how you feel saying, what we have done so far in this fight against COVID-19. But, as much as we don't look forward to a third wave, that will depend largely on what we do with this second wave. Fine, the first wave is over. We probably can't go back in time to fix these things. But we have a second wave, and we have a lot we can do so that we don't get a third wave. Or even if there is a third wave, it's not as bad as this second wave. So regarding our response, which I'd like to stay on just for a moment, have we been able to get tailor-made responses just for our own context? What the virus did not do in Nigeria. What should that tailor-made response be? Not just copy and paste, really, where we see other countries do close schools, or let's close schools, do this, let's do this. What can a tailor-made response look like for Nigeria?
For me, of course, I don't believe in all these mass local, whatever. We identify from epidemiology. That's where data is important. Who are the people carrying this infection? What proportion, what population would they? Where do they find them? Is it in schools? Is it in whatever? Is it in the markets? Is it in other places? You do your basic analysis, and that will tell you where your problem is, and you target that area. not a mass campaign that we're doing, like everybody lock up and then we lock up. I mean, these are basic, and that's where data is important. And that's why our data are important. And that's why we need to then do a proper analysis of that. And then use that to plan on this. But there's a basic foundation to preventing epidemic. It is don't spread it to people. And how do you not spread it? Use your non-pharmaceutical interventions. I said from the beginning that COVID control is not a government business. It is the individual, you and me. If I don't spread it to you, you don't get it. And if you protect yourself from me, then you don't get it. So we need each of us to take the responsibility of the fact that I'm responsible for spreading this disease. Therefore, I must wear my mask. I go out in the street and I'm looking like the only masquerade in the place because no other person is wearing a mask. We are just playing with our life. And we need to get people to know that those basic essentials of life, we must continue that. If we're able to get the third wave that they'd like to come, the viruses are there, the people who are not immune are there. So we continue to have the policy. If we continue to abandon all the non-pharmaceutical interventions, then we're setting ourselves ready for a third wave that will even be worse than what we had in the second wave.
Now, Prof, now that we're getting this vaccine, they say first of this, I think about 4 million vaccines. So if we get that, and given where we are, how should we proceed if we don't have all of these details, properly sorted out?
Let me say one thing. I think one of the first things we need to confront is what we call vaccine hesitancy or vaccine rejection. That we need to solve. Maybe we should have sorted this one out months ago, not when the vaccines are arriving. Go and check out from some of the studies done by people. A lot of people don't try that vaccine. We will have had to begin to counter all the false stories. There's something going on now on the internet, which is saying everything is no to the vaccine. But that's not the truth. We need to let people know. This is an experimental vaccine. This is something people studied about it. So when they're saying no, the answer should be, we don't have information. And then let people know, tell them the truth. And don't tell the fat lie. Will the vaccine protect you? He said, that's not true. The vaccine will protect you. Yes, we need stop from being transmission. It will not. So give the facts about the vaccine and let people make up their mind what they want to based on facts, not on rumors. That's the first approach I think Nigeria. And then, yes, we've had experience with the mass campaign in Nigeria before, but not the mass campaign you're talking about. We're talking about mass campaign amongst children with polio. We had a few with yellow fever. But then how do we do with those ones? What errors did we make in those places? We should be by now we should have all those things. People should be told. And we can't even tell you when the vaccines are arriving. As I said, it was March, it was this, it was that. But then before that time, when the vaccines come, where are we going to get the vaccines? What are the locations? What do I need to do to get it? That information should have been out by now. We shouldn't be waiting for UNICEF to bring the vaccine tomorrow before we start telling people, go to this location to go and get your vaccine. But of course, we don't know what we're getting. We can't even give anybody location. But then you prepare ahead of time. They say, should this vaccine come, you can get it from this place. These are the places you can get it. This is how to what you need to do to get it. Those information should be available now before the vaccines come.
Well, I think the government says by tomorrow, the vaccines should arrive, barring, if all goes well. But you've highlighted some concerns, but what other concerns do you have in terms of administration of this vaccine, storage? Because the authorities say, look, we have this sorted out, and that's why we're going to receive this. We have the cold chain, we will administer them properly.
Well, let me say, you can prepare. You don't know whether you are prepared on the test at telecom. You study as a student. It's the exam that will determine whether you are still prepared well. We don't know whether you are prepared well until the vaccine when we start distributing it. But first of all, obviously, the MPSCD has the wherewithal in terms of, for the vaccine that is coming now, and the temperature that they're breaking it. I have no problem with that one. But it was the Pfizer one in Somalia, 85. I will have big doubts that we will be able to stop those ones. But with the AstraZeneca Oxford vaccine, I have no doubt about that. There are places in this country and no storage facilities for us to get those things done. So that's not my concern. My concern is the logistics of how you get, who is going to get first? We should know which group are going to get first. I know they've announced one thing, but you keep hearing different stories from different things. First they said it's health workers, then they said it's security people, then they said bring all the leaders to come and get first. Who is getting first? This information should be clear to all of us. Well, we know how to do it. Other parts of the world, they tell you from the world, people at this age group are going to get first, we move on to the next group. We don't have that in the country, do we?
Prof, still talking about this, there's something you said earlier about our preparedness for, receiving the vaccines, and it raised a concern, so to speak. Historically, people are generally reluctant about vaccines. It's reflected in how we handle the polio vaccines of years back, and already the word is out there, the caution, the cautious optimism, if we can use that term, that some already have about this vaccine, that we have had so many viral infections, so many serious conditions over the years, and none of them has, one or two of them do not have vaccines, and now this one within 1 year. So that's one concern. And then how do we even persuade people to take these vaccines? Previously, you have spoken about the need for persuasive communication. On the one hand is the issues that we are having, persuading people to use the NPIs. On the other hand is persuading people about these vaccines. How do we go about this? Or do you think it's serious enough for us to look at?
Yeah, let me go to the polio something. We had a problem at one time. I think it was 2003, when we rejected. How did we overcome that? We went down to the basic people, the people who are in touch with the common man. We went to the MS in the north. We talked to them. We got their side to be on the side, and we talked to the people. We used the local materials to carry out messages. The street jester, all those kind of things. The people who can reach the community, not the Abuja people. We want to talk to people who are living with the people. So that information, now I said, this information should have been out a long time ago and trickle down to the level of the people. That's the first one. I'm quite, I will not be surprised if there'll be a problem of people not going to accept because of the fake news that have gone out a long time, which we never counted. We accepted it and we started spreading it. So people believed it. We never came out. It was very late about this story about tell the point you raised about the vaccine being made too fast. Yes, of course. There's advancement in every stage of life. Why should we have the advancement in vaccine production? In the days when Ezekiel went to the UK, to America, or wherever, it took him 2 weeks. When the president wants to go to London, it takes him 4 hours. So are we going to go back to what the Ezekiel used to do? So the foundation for making vaccine faster had been going for 4 or 5 years. So it's a misconception to say that this vaccine was produced too fast. It's like when you have in your house, you have different sockets. You can plug one socket for your electricity, for your fan. You can plug another one for your TV. The foundation is already there. So it's a kind of plug and take. And so this one, with that foundation, new vaccine came much faster than what used to be. Because there's advancement everywhere. You cannot take that advancement from even vaccine production. That's number one. So that issue about whether it is too fast. But the important thing was that the issues of safety and efficacy were never compromised. Just like when we travel by plane, they don't compromise that on the plane. When you because it's faster, you put in all these security measures to make sure, and that's why you have the confidence to go out there and go and fly by plane. For me, I'm not particular. Yes, one of the ways in which you can convince our people. You remember what our people say? They don't trust the government. Therefore, let's see some of those government people take this vaccine, and then we watch them, sit down and see whether they survive or they don't survive. Then gradually we begin to build up people's immunity. But tell me, go and get this, then you are taking your own children to buy to go and take another vaccine. Then, of course, I'm not believing you. Do it openly at Ibu Square. Get the big people there, the legislature, whatever. Come and take this vaccine. Then that's what we'll see. Then we'll convince our people that it is safe to take. Those are some of the ways in which you can convince them. And then it's a gradual thing. Over time, people don't say, oh, yes, this guy that got it did not die. He did not fall sick. And therefore, no, I can go there and take it. That's what we need to do. Leadership in this issue has to come from the top. Apart from the health workers, we need to get our leaders come out there openly and take this vaccine. I will be one of the ones, because the people say I talk too much. But I will be one of the ones to go. I will be there so that people know that this time that talks all the time, now okay, you are sticking it.
All right, but we'll find out if they will let that happen. But really thank you very much indeed for your perspective this morning. Professor Oyewole Tomori is the immediate past president, Nigeria Academy of Science. Thank you for talking to us today.
Thank you, my friends. It was a pleasure.
All right, so we're back in a moment. Stay with us. Welcome back. Well, yes, as you've seen there, Dr. Omorinube Mamora joins us next. Is the Minister of State for Health. Good morning, sir. Thank you for joining us today on the program.
Thank you very much. Good morning.
Okay, well, 1 year on, what would your assessment be in terms of how we've handled COVID-19 in the country?
Well, thank you very much, Kimberly. Well, the first thing to say is to extend condolences to the families of those who have lost their loved ones in the last 1 year, and to pray that God will comfort the families. The second is to salute the hard work, the resilience of the health workers, particularly those at the front line that have put up a very, very commendable fight against this devastating virus. Now, having said that, you recall that the first thing this president did was to set up the presidential task force on, COVID-19, which essentially, is a multi-sectoral body to manage the response activities to the pandemic. And of course, again, what that task force did was to set up the pillars of the response management. Of course, you have the surveillance, you have the surveillance pillar, you have the point of entry, you have the laboratory, you have the case management, you have the infection control, infection prevention and control. And then, of course, you have the security and the logistics. Then, of course, you have the what we call the risk management pillars. These are the pillars set up by the. So through this, then we went to town to now do what we need to do, particularly through our agencies, the NCDC, the National Primary Health Development Agency, of course, NAFDAC, the port services and all that. And then we also connected with international and local bodies as well. International through the WHO, the United Nations, of course, West African Health Organization, and there's so many other international bodies that we're connected with to share experiences and, of course, gain more knowledge and all that. Even with China as well, and the Zoom engagement, online engagement was handy in that regard. Of course, we expanded our infrastructural, health infrastructural base in terms of isolation wards, isolation centers, of course, ICUs, intensive care units, and of course, laboratories, especially molecular laboratories in particular. So, and then, of course, we must also acknowledge the local bodies like the CARCOVID and other philanthropic groups that collaborated and assisted us greatly. And then we also, increase our collaboration efforts with the states and the local government as well, because it's what we call the all of society, all of government and all of society approach. So these are some of the things that we're able to put in place to be able to get to where we are at this point in time.
But from the results that we have, the concerns that the task force has raised about the second wave, either by adherence to the non-pharmaceutical measures and the systemic approach, does this suggest that we still have a lot of room for improvement?
Well, I could hear from the intro what Professor Abayomi said, which is that this is a virus that the tendency, the longer the virus stays in the system in a pandemic situation, then the more or the greater the chances of mutation. So if we continue to have mutation in one way or the other, then important thing is for us to be alert in all respects and to continue to encourage our people to keep to the non-pharmaceutical interventions, use of face mask, use of hand washing, and the use of sanitizer, social distancing, physical distancing, and all that. So this will still have to be in place, even when we have the vaccines available, because tendencies for people to think that once the vaccines are available and they have taken their vaccines, their vaccination, then they don't need to worry. No, it's not. So these things, they have to go hand in hand. That is, the non-pharmaceutical interventions, and as well the administration of vaccines and all that. So we have to be alert. We have to be prepared. You recall that when we had the first wave, the figures went up, and at some point in time, the figures came down, and people were like, in fact, some people even threw parties to say, "Oh, Corona is over," But the second wave came like a thief in the night, if you like, devastating and more devastating than the first wave. So we have to just, be expectant. We have to look out. We have to watch out and be very careful and keep to the advisories, of government and other bodies regarding what we need to do. So these are the things. We shouldn't go to town. We shouldn't take anything for granted. Because again, even if we feel safe around here, we cannot also rule out importation. Don't forget that even the first case came by importation. So we have to be ready at all times.
Well, I'm wondering, I'm hoping that you'll be able to answer this question because it came in when we were having the conversation with the NAFDAC DG that happened sometime last week. And she was talking about how the vaccines that are coming in, there's been a third phase trial conducted for them, even though there's still some pharmacological vigilance. I think that was the statement she used around it, which is, she says, supposed to constitute a fourth phase. However, there are questions around the type of vaccine that Nigeria is expecting. Looks like there's some contradiction. I'm going to read this tweet from Dr. Imoesi, who says the NAFDAC DG seems to be confusing the EU of AstraZeneca to the Covishield vaccine approved for use in Nigeria. So I guess the question is, which vaccine actually has been approved for Nigeria? And do you know anything about the Covishield vaccine?
Well, what I know is that, let me just, on a general note, all the vaccines being used anywhere at this point in time, whether in the UK, in the US, whatever, they are being administered under what we call emergency use authorization, as approved by the respective countries' regulatory body. And the regulatory body for us here is NAFDAC. Now, you will recall that even in using these vaccines, it is believed that the vaccines, they have some measure of protection which they can give to the people. But because no vaccine has gone through the whole hog, that is why the manufacturers themselves, they are requesting And they are insisting, not just requesting, insisting that each country that will use any vaccine will have to sign what we call the indemnity clause. So I'm saying in essence that the vaccines that to the best of my knowledge that has been approved for use for us here is AstraZeneca. So that is not to say that we cannot use some other vaccines, but provided it is approved. It's first listed by WHO, and secondly, approved for use by the local regulatory body, which is NAFDAC.
So the worry here, the concern here is that there is a difference between the AstraZeneca, which has already undergone a phase 3 trial in the UK and elsewhere, and there is no phase 3 trial published for the Covishield vaccine anywhere at all. The AstraZeneca, if it comes to Nigeria, will be undergoing a phase 4, but there are concerns around a phase 3 for this Covishield vaccine. Are you aware of that?
Well, what I know, what is important to me is that what we are receiving is AstraZeneca and possibly J&J, Johnson & Johnson. That's what we plan to receive hopefully by tomorrow. So the Covishield is not one of the vaccines being sent to us. So I cannot really be bothered about that at this point in time. Better as regarding what we are receiving, what we are giving our people at this point in time.
Okay, so yes, indeed, we are expecting the vaccines that are coming in tomorrow. However, are we expecting any vaccines from India? Because there was talk at some point that some of the vaccines that were coming to Nigeria were coming in from India.
Well, if we have vaccine from India, it will be vaccine licensed. It's AstraZeneca that has been licensed for production in India through this the institution called the Serum Institute. So you can have a patent which you now give to another country or another body or manufacturer which is even outside your own country. So it will be produced under license, and it's AstraZeneca to the best of my knowledge.
Will we be receiving details of a change, assuming for some reason we will not only get, because we know that right now there's a limited production of vaccines, and that the population is huge. 4 million to what it is that our population is a lot. If we have to get additional vaccines from another company, will Nigerians be kept in the know?
Oh, definitely. You see, our projection is that we will be receiving about 40% of our vaccine requirement in year 2021 and 30% of the requirement in 22. So that will give us 70%, which that is the coverage of the population that is required to achieve what we call herd immunity. So, and we, of course, will be having mixed vaccines. When I say mixed vaccines, it could be AstraZeneca and Johnson & Johnson and possibly any other one that has been, but I mean, like I said, any vaccine we are using must have been listed by the WHO and also given approval for emergency use authorization by NAFDAC based on the dossier of this whatever vaccine that's available. And of course, one of the things that NAFDAC does is to ensure reasonable degree of efficacy and safety. These are the critical factors which NAFDAC will have to look at. So the important thing is that whatever vaccine that counting will be such that we are reasonably sure that will be good for our people in terms of safety and efficacy. And of course, don't forget, we are used to have the a supply from ABAT. ABAT is our African Vaccine Acquisition Tax Team. The ones we are getting for now, they are from COVAX. COVAX facility, which is a global facility, to manage through Global Vaccine Alliance, Gavi, and WHO.
Now, in terms of administration, all the vaccines at the moment are 2-dose vaccines. How will these ones that are arriving now be administered?
Well, yes. You see, we continue to have information. You see, as we say, knowledge, education, they are continuous and continuing. Yes, in fact, we are beginning to have information that even the hitherto thought 2 doses will not even be necessary. It will just be 1 dose. We are beginning to have information that suggests that 1 dose might just be okay rather than 2. But for now, the vaccine that has single, that is 1 dose administration, is J&J. And if I had my way, I will say that that is what we should just keep to in terms of single dose administration. For me, is preferable in terms of convenience, in terms of compliance, and possibly cost implication. So, but it's Johnson & Johnson is what we know as of now that is being recommended as single dose administration. The others that we have right now, like Pfizer, like Dana, like AstraZeneca, the recommendation for now is a 2-dose vaccination. But like I said, you have information now being pushed out to suggest that even a single dose administration of even AstraZeneca may just be enough. That we may not need to have the second dose. But again, we may have to wait to see what the consensus of opinion will be at the end of the day. But people are doing studies, they are looking at data, they are looking at evidence, and then they are looking at science to make these pronouncements.
Well, just to be clear, so, Nigerians understand what to expect. It's just a few hours to that shipment arriving. How many doses, really, is the one we're getting? How many doses do people have to take for the shipments we are getting now? I know information changes, but what's the last information you have regarding that?
I think that's what I just said. That we're expecting AstraZeneca and Johnson & Johnson. For AstraZeneca, for now, it's 2 doses. In that intervals of 1 month, 4 weeks from the first dose. But if someone is to receive J&J, Johnson & Johnson, it will be single dose. So just to make it clear, if it's AstraZeneca, for now, it will be 2 doses. If it's Johnson & Johnson, it will be 1 dose.
Okay, I think that should clear the air for people. But so we spoke with Professor Tomori earlier on. I'm not sure you caught that conversation, and he raised some concerns, especially because that's his area of expertise. And one of his concerns, apart from saying that, well, it's not really about what we did, it's about what the virus did not do. But in terms of administering the vaccine, he's quite worried about, the framework, our preparedness to really administer the vaccines. There's the gamut of information, countering a lot of conspiracy theories, and even getting the vaccines to those who need it. He's worried about, the class of people that will get it. Are they going to be health officials or security agents and all that? But first, I'd like to clear the air regarding this, because a lot of people were quite concerned, saying that, Ghana got theirs first, then Cote d'Ivoire, before Nigeria. And when you weigh the infection rate and all that, you see that Nigeria is meant to be at least top, meant to get priority in that regard. So what exactly was responsible for that? Because they think that, well, if Ghana and Cote d'Ivoire got it because they probably fulfilled the criteria way before Nigeria, it probably speaks a lot to how prepared we are, not just to receive them, but to also administer the vaccine. So I'd like you to speak to that.
Well, again, I think, the best of my knowledge, the bodies, that is the COVAX facility that is sending us these vaccines, they have their protocol, they have the order that they intend to follow in the distribution of these vaccines. And I think one of the things probably that will have been looked at is also the population size. A lot of these countries in Africa that have taken this, got these vaccines before us. These countries, these are small countries. Maybe 1/3 the size of Lagos. Nigeria is a huge country, and again, they also look at possibly the infection rates and deaths recorded and all that. They have their parameters, and I think at the end of the day, what is important now is that we get our vaccines, and I can assure you that the National Primary Healthcare Development Agency, which is the lead agency in this whole process of vaccine administration, management, and what have you. I think reasonably they have done a good job. They have been in the business, so to speak. And the vaccines we are expecting, they are the vaccines that can be stored and distributed at the routine temperature for our routine vaccines like polio, measles, and the like. The BCG for tuberculosis. These are so they have the experience. And they have done quite a lot to reassure us and reassure Nigerians that they are ready to do what we need to do. The major concern initially was this intra-cold chain facility where you need minus 70 degrees Celsius. But we don't have that now. And once we don't have that, this is something we have been doing for a while. So I believe we are reasonably ready. And if along the line we need to adjust, of course, we will be willing to adjust, but there is really nothing that we would say this time around is really special in terms of managing these vaccines, in terms of administration, in terms of distribution, supply, cold chain, and all that. And of course, we are very clear as to the prioritization, that is, who gets first, who gets next, and all that.
All right, Doctor, we'll let you respond to that and talk, and then respond to some other concerns that people have when we return from this break. Just hold on a minute, we'll be back. Welcome back. Honorable Minister, you were going to talk about who is going to get it first. Please go ahead.
Yes, the first will be the frontline workers, health workers, because they're in the front line. We are facing the battle heavily, so they will come first. Then, secondly, we will look at the elderly, those above 60, 65, and particularly with comorbidities, that is, they have existing or they have existing health conditions, high blood pressure, diabetes, heart disease, things like that. They will also be, in that group. And of course, we will also be looking at the strategic leadership, of the country. And then, of course, we will be looking at some other people, like people at the point of entry, the border posts, managers, and things like that. So this will be the order in terms of priority for now.
Okay, well, when you say strategic leadership of the country, because Prof was suggesting he likes to see the president and some leaders take it openly, is that what you were referring to?
That is part of the strategic leadership. I mean, even in a war situation, you want to protect as soon as possible the strategic leaders of the country. Yes, as part of course the Mr. President, the governors, and so the likes of SOX. That's what we refer to as.
So, but will it be done in public, openly?
Oh yes, why not? Because we want to let the people know that this vaccine is safe. That is why we will do it in the open. Because we need to generate that confidence in and build trust in the people.
There's this, I think the debate has been going on for a while. Some are arguing that, or they'd like to find out, for instance, if there are Nigerians who are in different parts of the world and then they've already been vaccinated, they have the COVID certificate, will they be required to present any of those documents or be required to still observe procedures? What will we require of them if they were to come into the country?
Well, they will still need to come. The protocol is there already, which is they need to produce evidence of having taken the PCR test, within the stipulated time limit, which is about 72 hours before boarding, and then they will need to produce that certificate. And even when they come into the country, they will go into isolation to have, and then on the 7th day, they will still be required to do the PCR test.
But that is after having been vaccinated.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because having been vaccinated it does not absolutely, I repeat, having been vaccinated does not absolutely say that you cannot get the infection. What the vaccine guarantees is that if you get the infection, you are not likely to succumb. That is it. We must get this thing right. People cannot, and I thought I tried to make that clear even from the onset, that the fact that you have got the vaccination is no license for you to let yourself loose. You don't let down your guard. No, the things that we have said will still be in place in terms of non-pharmaceutical interventions, particularly at a point when we are yet to establish what we call the herd immunity. That is, and we cannot have that until minimum of about 70% of the people will have been vaccinated. So it's just, playing safe. So nobody should be under any illusion as to the fact that, I have taken the vaccination, then I can be free, I can let loose. No, it doesn't work that way. So we need to make that very clear to our people.
It still raises a question that if getting the vaccine does not mean you're absolutely protected from the virus, so how much will change if we achieve 70% vaccination? I mean, and you say we'll probably get herd immunity. That means that 70% will not have absolute protection or, let me just say protection from the virus. So these are some of the contradictions that people are seeing. I think it will be important to explain these things to people and just give them the facts. This is what it is. I mean, we can't do much to change it. So I think there's a lot really, but I'll just like to get clarity on this one. So we're expecting the shipment tomorrow. Have the people who will get it first, have they been selected or we're waiting?
Well, the National Primary Healthcare Development Agency has the template, has the figures where the people are how to locate them, and of course the rollout of that exercise itself. The executive director, that's the head of National Primary Healthcare Development Agency, has the protocol and the details of all that.
So does that mean they have been selected or not? Just to be clear on that.
Well, I cannot say they have been selected, but those that in that group, the NPHCD already knows those individual groups I mentioned.
Well, one of the things that's also interesting, Doc, as we wind down on this topic is some of the things that you have also said previously in previous interviews about local interventions, recognizing the costs that this is bringing on the nation and the recommendations that have been made for us to focus more on infrastructure as opposed to getting the vaccines. I'm wondering what the position of the Federal Ministry of Health is presently on local solutions to this and the number of others that we have been contending with or may arise in the future, near or far future. I'm talking about phytomedicine. What's our position on that to ensure that at least we fast track, if possible, such interventions for the future?
Well, we are doing the best that we can in this circumstance. Particularly, I want to salute the work done so far by the National Pharmaceutical Research and Development. That's the NIPRID. What they are doing, National Institute, of Pharmaceutical Research and Development, they have been doing a lot, but again, the limiting factor is funding. They have the capacity to do a lot of things, but they are limited by funding. There are a number of products that they have developed that they now need the funding to be able to take them, through to the final stage in terms of, commercial production and making it available to the people. So that's just I know about 2-3 products which because I visited that institute and I saw things myself. There are products waiting for funding for them to take it to the final stage. So we are working in terms of this local solution. Again, we have about 3 of our research groups that have developed. They are working on developing, a vaccine that is homegrown, that is based on our own experience here. Again, funding is also an issue which they need to contend with. And of course, even beyond production, for them to even carry out the phases, the clinical trial, phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, it will also require a lot of funding. If you can get to that, then and they now have that patent, they can make that patent available to another body for the manufacture. And don't forget, it's a whole lot of process, and it requires a lot of technology and infrastructure that we don't have on ground right now. Although efforts are being made to through the biovaccines Nigeria group to ensure that we're able to do some of these things on our own in country. So the efforts are ongoing.
Yeah. All right, then, Dr. Olorunmi Bemamo, Minister of State for Health, thank you for your perspectives and your, at least, clarity on a lot of things this morning.
Thank you very much, but please, the fact that somebody takes a vaccine is not and does not. Let me make that clear. You see, because yes, So people should not go to bed, should not go to town and start feeling that, oh, if we have taken the vaccine, so we can do whatever you like. It doesn't work that way. Don't forget, this is a virus that we never saw before. And much is known, much is still unknown. That is where we need to be careful.
Yes, indeed. So that will open up another round of conversation across the country. But thanks again for your time. We're back in a moment. Join us again. Welcome back, warriors. As you've seen, Mr. Seyi Adetayo joins us next to talk about security. Good morning, and thank you for joining us today. But you know, the thing now is, with all of these security challenges, pronouncements by even security operatives, you know, some may just begin to take them with a pinch of salt. That's how it's affecting almost anything everyone is saying. And from what you've seen, I mean, yes, the president, today's daily is saying, he's saying that, look, this kidnap will be the last. And of course, many will wait to see what happens moving forward. So, having been there yourselves and seeing all of these things as they play out, what do you think is going on?
Okay, good morning. Thank you so much. I've said this here at times without numbers, that, we're in the dire straits, and we see this actually coming. And this is something that is unfolding. We are not yet at a level where we can actually, sit back and start believing that things are going to disappear overnight. Yes, good statement from President. It's assuring, but the reality on ground is actually speaking otherwise. Until certain action as seen being done, and then I know much is being done, but the reality on ground is that what we still need to do, we're not seeing it being done right now, and it's still going to give room for people like this to continue to carry out their nefarious activities.
You know, I know that security agencies, you pick up on different leads of what's happening with a view to seeing how you could sort them out. But one of the people who was kidnapped, our crew caught up with some of them, and let's let you listen to what they said, having been released.
The man you're talking about is the leader?
Is the leader.
Did he say his name?
Yes, he said his name, something like Kachella Ali. Something like Kachella Ali. They were just complaining about the government, that the government promised them something during the election. All these fake promises of politics. So they didn't fulfill it. That was what tempted them to be into this bandit of 18 and kidnapping. But what they promised us that, and I asked one of them that, what do you want from the government? They were telling us that what we want is that if the government can fulfill their promises. And I asked them what was their promises. They were saying that shelter. The government promised them to give them hospital, good education. They will pay some of them salaries, something like that, farms and everything. But the government refused. After the election was fulfilled, the government now decided not to fulfill their promises. That was what they were saying. It's government.
How were you faring? What were you eating? What were you drinking?
We've been drinking dirty water. We've been drinking dirty water. That is the river water. The water they bath with the water in the river. They will now give us to drink it.
Harrowing experiences, but needed you to hear that initial part where they were just saying it's government. What do you think of that?
Well, such a pathetic narrative there. If you still look at this, it's quite not different from how Boko Haram started. It was all about political promise being used for elections, and the expected patronage was no longer there. And things went out of hand. And we are hearing directly from a victim now, relaying what the bandit told them directly. And that is the issue. And as long as crime and criminality has political coloration, it's always very difficult to curtail. And that's the reason why we've been seeing, actions and counter-actions. We've seen movement from one end, and we'll be seeing movement from another direction that appears as if they are contradicting actions that are being taken by private government agencies. And we've had also, instances where government agencies have actually, preferred solutions, and political decisions are contrary or in a different direction from what the security agencies have actually suggested. So that shows you the extent in which politics and the politicians are affecting the issues.
Doesn't that also tell us that there's actually much more to all of this that is going on than they are willing to let us know?
Oh, definitely. It's always like that when it comes to national security. And that's why, people like us have been advising that at this stage now, what we need is a national policy on managing banditry and terrorism in Nigeria. It has to start with declaring national emergency on insecurity, then releasing a national policy that will guide the local government, state government, and federal government's action in addressing this.
So I was actually wondering, because even before that part, government themselves, have they owned up? Because if that's the accusation coming through from those who've been kidnapped, and several of them have been saying that now, but government hasn't even owned up to that now.
No, see, we're talking about government at the federal government and government at the state level and government at local government level. So if they say government, it doesn't mean that it is the federal government. It could be the state government, the governorship election, or the local government election, or the senatorial election.
Looked into it
that they were involved in. So that's why we're advising right now that there should be a national, one declaration of emergency. Let there be a national policy that will guide all states. Not that one state will be given amnesty and another state will actually be saying no amnesty. The policy must guide the action from the federal to the local government in such a way that nobody will be able to go outside what the national policy on addressing issues like this.
Would that policy also include preventing as opposed to fighting? I say that because from what that lady said, it's clear that it's negligence, so to speak, or abandonment, so to speak, on the part of government that's made this happen in the first place. So if that policy does not include preventing as opposed to fighting, won't we just be reacting as opposed to being proactive?
I will not say abandonment from government. We're talking about, we need to separate government and politicians now. Yes, politician makes government. So it's not that government as a body empowered bandits or some individuals to start carrying on. But we've seen situations over the years where certain politicians, because they want to win election, before getting to political office, empower people like this, use them for election, promise them several things, and say, when we get to office, we're going to do this for you. And those people now became the government in their respective, offices that they are holding, and these people are looking up to them, expecting them to now use the machinery of government, including the resources of the state, to begin to feed them. And you see them now turning the same weapon that are given to them now against the state. So
you drew a dichotomy between government and politicians, and that's critical right there. But then we're speaking about government now as governors, in the function of governance, not meeting the needs of people and consequently making some vulnerable and some open to going into these things.
And you see, I was trying to make a point earlier on. We have several ungoverned spaces in Nigeria right now, and this is part of the actions that we expect government to do. As long as we expect that the way we are doing things right now, the strengths of the Nigerian armed forces and the police as it is right now can solve the problem, we're lying. These are going to, how many schools are you going to protect? People are saying, the school is not fenced. Fencing the school will not stop 100 armed men. Even if you have 5 mobile policemen standing there, they will run away when they see 100 armed men with guns. So the issue right now is that, like we've actually projected and we've advised, government should set up, should declare emergency, develop a policy that will guide everybody, including the traditional rulers, politicians, and everybody, and say, if you go outside this policy, you are going against the laws of Nigeria, and you will be prosecuted. Then, there's something, I know you are aware of short service commission in the Nigerian Armed Forces for recruiting officers. We need something like short service enlistment of men, where for a period of 4 or 5 years, that Nigerians will be recruited, trained for probably about 6 months into the Nigerian Armed Forces for a short enlistment period for 4 years. Have enough men. We cannot be fighting Boko Haram in the Northeast. And then you expect the same strength of the Nigerian Armed Forces and the police to be able to fight banditry in Northwest and North Central. Not talking of the issues in the down south. So we need all this. We need, to do this. Manpower. Build up for Nigerian security agencies right now, and be able to have enough people on ground. You see, if the government is saying that this is not going to happen, this will definitely still happen. If those space still remains ungoverned, those people are still there, and we're talking of large, even Niger State alone is even difficult for the remnant of the Nigerian Armed Forces as it is today to police that area. So we need right now to divert resources into this program, recruit enough men, put them on ground, and let us start clearing all those ungoverned space. As the military are clearing it, let the ones that be enlisted for short service program in the police begin now to close up those areas and start policing those areas until we clear all these areas. That's when Nigeria, as it is today, will be able to be free from this. Not amnesty and not negotiation with bandits.
As if it will not be politicized again. But we do thank you for your perspective, Sheyi Adetaya, former DSS operative. Well, gentlemen, there you go. That is the show today. We thank you all for watching. We'll see you tomorrow. I'm Chamberlain Uso.
I'm Kayode Kikele.
And I'm Ayo Makine. Have a wonderful rest of your day.
Well, I believe when Chamberlain said gentlemen, it also meant ladies too. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Mark Wilson, Yusuf.